Welcome to Binge Watchers, where we talk about the stories and characters we love and the shows they live in. My name is Ron, and let's talk about the Amazon original Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. You might have noticed that this is not my office. I'm in an Airbnb in Denver, and I'm sure that for people who live here, this is like a beautiful sunny day, but I am freezing to death. So if I freeze to death before the end of this video, just blame Denver, I guess? Or blame the very low tolerance for cold weather that comes from living in Israel. Electric Dreams is an anthology series based on short stories by Philip K. Dick, who is one of the most prolific science fiction writers in history. Tons of movies have been made based on his works, and he's written like 1 million short stories. And at the core of these short stories, or at least most of them, there's one premise. There's a what if question. And I feel that that is always the basis for great science fiction, that what if question. What if we could predict crime before it happens? Or what if there was one huge automatic factory that manufactured absolutely everything? So basically, what is Amazon going to look like in a few years? So each episode of this show takes a premise from a Philip K. Dick short story, takes one of these what if questions, and answers it, or retells the story. Okay, so first let's get something out of the way, the psychological elephant in the room. It's almost inevitable to draw some comparison between Electric Dreams and Black Mirror. Both shows are anthologies, both shows deal with science fiction elements, both of them deal with technology, but I don't feel that Electric Dreams is trying to be Black Mirror, or I don't think it's trying to be the next Black Mirror. The similarities are definitely there, and there are episodes of Electric Dreams that I think could sort of pass for Black Mirror episodes, but I think that Electric Dreams focuses more on telling a story. It focuses more on this premise, this question, and playing it out. Electric Dreams doesn't really focus on how one piece of technology can be misused or expose the darkest aspect of who we are as people, like Black Mirror does. But as I said, the similarities are definitely there. So I feel that even though these are old stories, Electric Dreams still needed to find ways to differentiate itself from Black Mirror, and I think they did a good job because it feels like its own show. It doesn't feel like a copy or even an imitation. Having said all of that, I do think that there are a few episodes in Electric Dreams that could have learned a thing or two from Black Mirror. So this show was a bit of a mixed bag for me. Some of these episodes were fantastic, but others just felt very bland. These are old stories that were originally told by one of the most influential writers in science fiction. So you have seen some version of all of these concepts and stories before. So some of these episodes just feel generic. They use a lot of very familiar settings and a lot of very familiar concepts, which doesn't have to be a bad thing because I feel that this show is really going for this classic sci-fi sort of thing, but some episodes pull it off, and some of them just fall flat because of it. There's also a pretty dramatic difference in production quality between some of these episodes. Some of these episodes are movie quality, and then some of the others make you say, like, I think I saw better looking spaceships on YouTube videos like 5 years ago. You can definitely see where most of the budget went. But actually, one of the main criticisms that I've seen against this show was one of the things that I liked the most about it, and that's the concept of an outdated future. Because obviously science fiction from 30 years ago or 40 years ago will look different from science fiction today. Just look at the latest Star Trek show and the first Star Trek show. So our ideas and concepts of what the future may look like change and evolve and become more advanced as we get closer to that future. But the future in most episodes of Electric Dreams feels like that older version of the future. So it feels like classic science fiction. Sometimes they do kind of take it a bit too far, and they have some stuff that look like they belong in some of the like not great Doctor Who episodes. You know, I love Doctor Who, but that show has had some bad episodes. But overall, I really like the aesthetic of this show. I really like the visual style of storytelling that they used here. The main problem I had with the show is how most of the episodes ended. I don't think there was any one episode that I really didn't like or thought that even the premise or the question that is posed by the episode is not interesting. They use the same sort of semi-open ending pretty often in this show, and at some point it just starts to feel lazy. Not every episode has some big twist or reveal, and not every episode needs one, but the episodes that don't have that type of ending, it feels like they didn't really think the episode through, and then you're sort of left with a feeling of, oh, so it just ended. But then there are a few episodes where you're sort of able to figure out the thing yourself, that premise of the episode. You're able to answer that question yourself, which is extremely satisfying because you're able to figure everything out with the episode. But in those episodes, they just do like this 5-minute thing at the end of the episode where they're gonna spell it out for you anyway. And that sort of ruins it. It doesn't like ruin a good episode. An episode is good even if it's like 85% good, but you know what I mean. That is definitely an example of a thing that Black Mirror knows how to do better. My favorite episode was the first one, Real Life. And it's the type of story that really keeps you questioning what's real and what's not. They have some really clever storytelling and also visual storytelling in that episode. Every time you think you know what's going on, a character in the episode will say something or ask a question that will make you think like, hey, that's actually a really good point. And then you're back to square one. I loved it, but I think they shouldn't have made it the first episode because it sets a very high bar that isn't really followed by most of the other episodes. There is another really good one, The Hoodmaker, which was my second favorite episode. But yeah, I would have put this one somewhere in the middle. Real Life really stood out for me. Now that I think of it, this one does actually have a very Black Mirror style element in it where people can use this little device that looks exactly like the device from USS Callister to plug in. They put it on their temple and then they're transported to like another world. They can take a vacation from their life. And the main idea in the episode is that you have two characters that are using this device to go on vacations from their lives, but then at some point you're not really sure which one of these worlds is the real world, which one of these characters is on vacation. For me, this was by far the best episode of the season. As I mentioned earlier, another episode that I really liked was The Hoodmaker, and this one shows you a version of the future that doesn't really have advanced technology, so the government and other sort of government agencies have to rely on mutants that have telepathic abilities to do things that you would otherwise do with technology, like make long-distance communication happen or have easy access to information like you would otherwise have with the internet. And the episode presents a pretty complicated but pretty plausible political situation that pits different parts of the population against each other. The telepaths on one side, the normals, the government, and you have to really wonder who's in the right and whose side would you be on. It also has a really interesting visual style and interesting story, and the two main characters I thought were fantastic. So I would definitely recommend this one as well. So those two are my favorites. I don't feel that any of the other episodes were at the same level, but some of the other ones are definitely good. The Commuter and Kill All Others I thought were interesting episodes. The Father Thing and Autofac were fun. I think that Human is a good example of an episode that could have been a lot of fun. It could have been cool, but everything they do in that episode feels very obvious and generic, and I just didn't really enjoy it all that much. Bryan Cranston's in it. I feel he's a little wasted in that episode. But, you know, he's still great. The episode is still fine. It's not bad. But I think that the two episodes where they used big name actors like Steve Buscemi in one episode and Bryan Cranston in another sort of went to waste. But the beauty of anthology shows is that you don't have to watch all the episodes for everything to make sense. These are completely standalone stories that don't really have any theme that ties them together other than science fiction, and not even that really. So you should feel absolutely free to only watch the good ones or the ones that you think are going to be interesting. Overall, I think this show produced some really interesting stories, some cool episodes, but I think that it either needed to be less episodes or they needed to find some more ways to innovate on some older concepts in science fiction. So, bottom line, should you watch it? If you're a fan of Philip K. Dick and you read a lot of his works, then definitely go and watch this show because I think you'll have fun seeing how they retold some of his stories. You might be disappointed that they didn't really innovate or add anything new to some of these stories. They pretty much told them as is without much of a modern spin. Some of them they did. I didn't read all of these short stories, but I did read some of them. If you're just generally a science fiction fan, I would encourage you to just read the descriptions for each and every one of the episodes. There are 10 of them. And just go watch the ones that have descriptions that make you think that there's an interesting premise. Find that question that the episode asks, and then, well, think about, do I want to see the answer to that question? But in any case, I would definitely recommend you watch The Hoodmaker and Real Life. Those two I thought were absolutely great. So what about you? Have you watched Electric Dreams? What were your thoughts about it, and what was your favorite episode? Also, have you read any of these short stories? And if you did, how did they stack up in the show? If you're going to be talking about spoilers, please use spoiler tags in your comments. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out a lot. And you can find me on Twitter and TV Time and Instagram. Links to everything in the description down below. You can also join our Discord server where we chat about TV and it's a lot of fun. But if you're finding binge watchers for the first time, welcome. I'd like to invite you to join the Binge Watchers community. I always blank when I do these, but I'd like to invite you to join the Binge Watchers community. Come talk about TV with us. It's a lot of fun. Subscribe to the channel. But in any case, keep binging, and I will see you next time.